Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. You're going to hear that introduction again here in about a couple of minutes. Why? Because I recorded an entire show, and then I get the news that Emmet Johnson is back. So this is my gut reaction to Emmet Johnson being back. Also, the show that I had already recorded, literally finished 5 minutes ago, Nebraska's top 10 transfer portal targets. This may be the most loaded show I've ever done. Ladies and gentlemen, with all the freaking notes I take, that's saying something. Okay, so I just got off the phone with Emmet. All right, but here's my gut reaction. Yes. Yes. Yeah, he was our best running back. He wasn't being used. Obviously, there's some things that have been put to the side. And when I spoke to Emmet a minute ago, he was very excited, very happy. It was legit. Okay, legit excitement, optimism to be back. We've got our best running back. And you're going to hear me talk about other running backs. You're going to hear me talk about potential good news. Well, that good news was Emmet coming back, which I now know that I did not know when I recorded earlier. We got our best running back. We have an offensive coordinator who's going to use him properly. Maybe we add some other depth in that running back room. I don't know, but you got Emmet Johnson, Dante Dowdell for short yardage, goal line situations. Quentin Ives is right there. So here's my point. This is big. Because when I talk about later in this show, all the players that we needed to retain, from Ja'Cory Barney to Dylan Raiola to Vincent Shavers to Willis McGahee and everyone else that I mentioned, I would have had Emmet on that list had I known he was coming back. Because he's going to be, well, he's a sophomore now. I think he's going to be a junior. All those other guys will be sophomores. My point is they're young, talented guys. These are your core players. He is one of your core players. Okay, I'm excited. I'm going to be talking to Emmet again in the morning. You can put together what that might be about, and stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's the rest of that show. Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Ladies and gentlemen, transfer portal season is almost upon us. There's so much to talk about. If you're like me, all right, and you're excited to see the transfer portal finally go both ways. What can Matt Rhule do? What can Dana Holgorsen do? What can these guys do to bring in transfer portal guys? Because right now it just appears a lot of people are going one way, but in fairness, the portal hasn't been open the other way yet. So if you're excited to see what Nebraska, what Matt Rhule, what Dana Holgorsen can do as far as bringing guys in the portal starting Monday, I'm recording this later on Sunday evening. Hit that, smash that like button. Also, if you just want to give a shout out to a dying breed, with all due respect to everybody who plays college football, but Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmaker, Heinrich Harburg, John Bullock, guys that are loyal like that. If you just want to show them some love as well, smash that like button. As always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, ring the notification bell, make sure you do so. I just put out a gut reaction to about, 3 different things earlier. Okay, Nebraska's bowl game opponent, Dana Holgorsen's reaction to the bowl game, Scott Frost, college football playoff chaos. You can check that out if you missed it earlier. There's going to be a ton of videos coming reacting to players coming in via the transfer portal. So make sure you subscribe and or ring that notification bell if you haven't done so just yet. All right. So a couple of things. I want to give a shout out to Big Red Rant. All right, they're on carrikerchronicles.com, my website. They do a great job. They put out a show earlier this week, and it talked about the mass exodus from Nebraska potentially being a good thing. And we're going to put this thing up on the screen right here, right now. Everyone wanted that Signetti and Sanders roster at Nebraska, expecting 15 to 20 portal guys. The guys that have lost most of their career are mostly going to be gone. All right, a whole new roster in Lincoln will be on the field in 2025. Excited for Matt Rhule 2.0. And the Big Red Rant talked about how that might be a good thing. So go check that out if you haven't seen that video. You can see it on carrikerchronicles.com, #cheap plug. After listening and watching to it, I was like, you know what? Sometimes a clean slate, a fresh start, a fresh perspective. Sometimes it's hard to get things out of your mind if you've been here since the Frost era and a lot of losing over the years. Sometimes it's hard to get that out of you no matter how hard you try. Matt Rhule even said we've been battling something that was here before we got here. With all due respect to everybody who's ever worn the N, love y'all. You're my Husker brothers, all right, for life. Sometimes a fresh slate, some new faces, and a fresh beginning is what is needed. So when they say Matt Rhule 2.0, I'm kind of like, you know what? Maybe a fresh start could be good in a new way, shape, or form. Now, you start to look, and we're going to put this graphic up on the screen. The defensive depth chart. There are a lot of people gone. All right, there's a lot of people gone. If we were to start a game right now with next year, and Ty and Nash and all those guys who want to play in the bowl game, but next year, based on what we have right now, without the incoming transfer portal players, there's not a lot of depth, as you can see. Okay, and Elijah Judy's coming back. Excited he's coming back. Excited for a lot of these guys. Right, and there's certain guys we got to keep. And a lot of them are on defense. Okay, a lot of them are on offense. My point is simply this. All right, there's a lot of guys gone, and as you go to the offensive side of this thing, there aren't as many guys gone. So a fresh start, a fresh slate. Also, it's going to happen whether we want it or not. You might as well embrace it, is what I'm getting at. Okay, top guys for Nebraska to retain for next season. Dylan Raiola, Riley Van Poppel, Ja'Cory Barney, Vincent Shavers, Willis McGahee. And then Elijah Judy piped in response to that tweet down below. Those are some of the guys that are young, that are talented, that are building blocks for the future. You got to have your core players that you build around, and I believe those are some of the guys, a lot of the main guys that you got to keep as far as those core players going forward. Now, Mitch Sherman, the transfer portal opens tomorrow, so here's an exercise in roster math for Nebraska. 112 returning rostered players does not include players who participated in senior day or have declared intention to enter the transfer portal. 20 incoming signees, we're just a smidge over this 105 limit. Anticipated portal adds, 15. 42 additional players who must depart for Nebraska to reach the 105 roster limit before the 2025 season. I mean, Matt Rhule's not just a football coach. He's basically the CEO of a gigantic business, which is why we need a general manager on staff in college football, okay, which is why they hired one a little over a year ago. Oh, this next tweet by my man Sherman I just thought was hilarious. Ohio State is my early pick to win the whole thing. Talk about the college football playoff solely because Michigan is not in the bracket. When I saw that, I literally burst out laughing. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, Nebraska has the most running backs drafted of any team. It's time to get back to producing NFL-type guys, NFL-type running backs. Amir, Rex, Halu, Ozigbo. That needs to be the standard, all right? And then he goes on to talk about some other things, but we got to get back to it. And I'm not knocking anybody. I just agree with the sentiment that we got to get back to it. And it's funny because Cam Scatterbo, not many people knew about this guy before the Big 12 championship game. By the way, he rushed 18 times for 208 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay, that's an average of 12 yards per carry versus a top 20 ranked team, top six, number 15 or 16, I believe, in Iowa State. I think they dropped after the Big 12 championship game. But I actually was sent a couple of plays from his high school championship game in California. This guy just flew under the radar. He had a run, an 80-yard touchdown run where he broke 7 tackles. These are the types of guys that we got to find. That's all I'm getting at. Plus, he's a freaking stud. All right, now I'm going to talk about Dane Key here in a minute, but Dane Key is interested in Nebraska, and Nebraska is expected to go after multiple big-time receiver targets. I'm going to get to Nebraska's top targets here in a minute. Big portal entries by team. Purdue 14. That happens when you go 1-11. Wisconsin 13. Nebraska 11. UCLA 7. Indiana and USC 6. Iowa, Minnesota, Northwestern 5. Michigan 4. Maryland 3. Ohio State 3. I guess no college football playoffs for some of these guys. Penn State 2 and Washington 2. Illinois 1. Michigan State, Oregon, and Rutgers 0. Not surprised by Oregon, but Rutgers and Michigan State, quite impressive. All right, our biggest needs in the transfer portal. Wide receiver. Got to have wide receiver. Okay, we really only had one center on the team last year. Okay, Justin Evans-Jenkins would slide over as the backup center. But we need a center. We need a tackle. Gunnar Gatula's probably the left tackle of the future, I would assume. Okay, he was a young player last year, struggled at times, but he's got a bright future. You got to get at least one offensive tackle. We've had inconsistencies at the right offensive tackle spot for too long. Maybe a couple offensive tackles, maybe a guard. Henry Letofsky is a big, strong dude. All right, but we need wide receivers. We need some help up front. Maybe you bring in a backup type quarterback. All right, to add some depth, especially if you're going to move Heinrich Haarberg around. A running back, although I may have some good news to share with you fine folks in the future. All right, but a running back is something we can need the whole entire front seven of the defense almost. I mean, we need a lot of depth in that front seven, which is weird to say in a 3-3-5, but you get my point. When you look at the secondary, and the secondary is like the strongest part of our defense when it was the one part of the team that never seemed to get better last year, with all due respect to those guys, it just is what it is. I wish it had gotten better throughout the year, but it didn't happen. They're talented guys, but right now, that's the one part of our defense where we've got guys coming back. Okay, and again, maybe a fresh slate, a clean slate, a fresh slate is good. I kind of think it is. I think why we will lose so many close games is it's right here. And sometimes you just need to wipe that clean, and sometimes new faces are the best way to do that. Right now, the most experienced part of our defense is the secondary at this moment in time. All right, now this is unconfirmed. Unconfirmed, let me reiterate that. But I've had a couple of people tell me that John Butler and Jim Leonard, they're kind of the early favorites for the defensive coordinator spot. Unconfirmed, okay? I will say this, Matt Rhule has to get the defensive coordinator hiring right. He has to get it right. He got the OC coordinator right, the offensive coordinator right. All right, so for me, We got the wide receivers coach we want. We got the offensive coordinator coach that we're looking for. I'm tired of, for years, our defense was really good. 09 under Pelini, and then the offense, not so much. And then the offense was really good, but then the defense couldn't match. And it just kind of goes back and forth. Under Rhule, it's been defense, and the offense has been catching up. I feel like the offense has a chance to be much better now for obvious reasons. Can we just be balanced on both sides of the ball? Like, he's got to get this defensive coordinator hire right. You lose Tony White, you lose Terrence Knight, and you lose guys like this. You've got to get the hire right, in my humble opinion. All right, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. They are your local concrete experts, retaining wall experts. If you need this type of work done, boom, Jason Armstrong, DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, Bonzel Pool and Spa, bonzelpool.com. If you've got saunas, hot tubs, pools, and you need them taken care of, bonzelpool.com. They're the folks to do it. If you want these things for next year, now is the time to get in line. They fill up fast. And if you want to put them in the spring or the summer, any of these aforementioned items, the hot tubs, the pools, the saunas, go to bonzelpool.com and get in line now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, looking at the transfer portal itself, the players in the portal, potential targets for Nebraska. 7 of the top 25 players are wide receivers. Nebraska is going to get some wide receivers. We can offer some money, we can offer playing time, and there's a lot of talented receivers in the portal. 7 of the top 25 players are wide receivers. There's 5 O-linemen. Okay, we don't have the same need at O-line as we do at wide receiver, but we also haven't had the O-line play that we've wanted for a very, very long time. 5 of the top 25 players in the portal right now, per the rankings, are offensive linemen, and 7 of those players, of the top 25 players, are in the front 7 defensive type players, defensive line, linebacker, and edge rusher types. Now, we're not going to get these guys. I just think it's interesting that they're in there. Quarterbacks, Texas A&M, former starting quarterback Connor Wegman, USC, former starting quarterback Miller Moss, and Oklahoma quarterback Jackson Arnold. Jackson was insanely highly recruited. Okay, they're not coming here. They're not going to be, they want to go somewhere to start. I'm just saying I think it's interesting. Oh, and former UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka. Do you remember this guy? The guy who left in the middle of the season? The whole debate over the $100,000 that he said UNLV wasn't offering. They said he was asking for more money in the middle of the season. That whole thing about 2 months ago. All right, he's actually in the portal too. All right. Now, as far as some of our targets, former 4-star USC wide receiver Kyron Hudson, 6'1", 205 pounds. We need guys who can win one-on-one battles. If you wanted to beat Nebraska last year, you know what you did? You went man-to-man in the secondary because we couldn't beat man-to-man coverage. And we didn't go in motion and use trips for 9 of the games of the season, the first 9 games. And we couldn't win the one-on-one battles. We couldn't get off the press. We couldn't win the one-on-one catches, even though we had small tight ends as wide receivers. That's what this guy does. Okay, he doesn't have quite the consistency up to this point in his career at USC that you would have liked just yet, but he's a perfect fit for this offense. This is a guy who could win one-on-one battles, something we need. All right, and you know it's always a good sign when a coach leaves and the fans are mad, or a player leaves and the fans are mad. USC fans were not happy to see him hit the portal. All right, here's an under-the-radar one. Trayvon Rudolph, 5'10", 187 pounds. All right, from a small school. Now, he can make plays with the ball in his hands once he gets the ball. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands once he has it. Explosive top-end speed, a rare combo of being explosive and great top-end speed. Most guys are explosive, but the top-end speed doesn't match. Or the top-end speed, once they get going, is really good, but it takes them a little longer to get going. Explosive, rare top-end speed. He's just on the smaller side. So I think he'd be a great number 2 or number 3 potential wide receiver and a kick returner. I'm just saying. All right, former 5-star wide receiver. All right, Jonte Cook from the Texas Longhorns. He's in the portal now, even though Texas is in the playoffs. A load of wide receiver room there at Texas. And I have not heard a particular interest between Nebraska and this particular guy. I've also not heard that they're not interested, if that makes any sense. I just think he's a really talented guy that with Dylan throwing him the ball and Dana's offense could be a whole lot of fun to watch if it worked out. I do know there's some interest between some of these guys that I'm mentioning, and some of them I just like them. All right, Micah Hudson, Texas Tech wide receiver. All right, Dana Holgerson still has a lot of connections down in Texas Tech, by the way. All right, I've already mentioned these 2 guys, so real quickly, in previous videos, Kentucky's top 2 wide receivers, Barian Brown, Dane Key, they're both playmakers. When you read articles about them and you learn about them, and the individuals, the Kentucky beat writers who are writing about them, talks about Barian Brown, Kentucky's star wide receiver in the portal. Dane Key, Kentucky's top wide receiver in the portal. Good signs, right? And obviously there's connections to Deontay Shorts. I'm going to call him D Shorts because Brandon Riley came on my Adam Carriker show on The Ticket, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday on 93.7 The Ticket. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag cheap plug. But he came on and we talked about Brandon Riley's career, his thoughts on the Huskers, but he was also D Shorts' roommate for his entire first season in the NFL. They were both undrafted wide receivers together. Okay, and he called him D Shorts, so I'm going to call him D Shorts going forward. And apparently D Shorts wasn't very good at, cleaning the dishes or whatever. Or I think Brandon said that may have been a situation. I can't remember. I digress. Not important. All right, here's something else that I thought was interesting. Former Kentucky starting tight end. Okay, Jordan Dingle's in the portal as well. Now, do we need a transfer portal tight end? Thomas Fidoni's at the end of the year was practicing hard, but he wasn't playing as much. Luke Lindenmeyer, they said they liked him. Possibly a little bit more of an athletic tight end could work in Dana's offense. So who knows? Maybe we got a bit of a roster swap. Unfortunately, with Florida State coming, I don't know. We'll see on the defensive side of the ball how all those defensive players work out elsewhere, where all they go. But maybe a little bit of a mini roster swap with Kentucky's offense and art. I don't know. We'll see. All right. See what else I got here. Nebraska does need help in the running back room. Now, there is some good news potentially coming in the future. Potentially. All right. Now, speaking of someone that Dana Holgorsen knows, Parker Jenkins, a former Houston running back now in the portal. He's a potential difference maker. All right. Now, I do think wide receivers will want to come here and play in Dana Holgorsen's offense. I do think they're going to want to come here and be thrown the ball by Dylan. By the way, I know there's been some rumors there. Rumors are rumors. All right, 4-star transfer portal running back, Ahmad Hardy. I really like this kid. He's a University of Louisiana Monroe, former running back, now in the transfer portal. His numbers were off the chart as a true freshman last year. Got 3 years to play left. All right, Kurt Signetti had a lot of success bringing in players from smaller schools with starting and playing experience. And now I know he's only going to be a sophomore, but he's got a lot of experience already. All right. In fact, of Indiana's starters this year, 11 of them were starters from James Madison that he brought with him. 2 of them were starters from Ohio. Okay. And Curtis Rourke, Ohio's best receiver, and then Curtis Rourke, Ohio's quarterback, who was the MAC Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year a couple of years ago, now the number 1 rated Big Ten quarterback in the Big Ten, when you look at the quarterback rating numbers to all the other quarterbacks in the Big Ten, came from these other smaller schools. So they can come in, they can have an impact. Plus they had some other starters at other spots from other schools as well. But all right, let me see here, get back on track. Looking at the defensive side of the ball. All right, defensive lineman Kelby Collins. He was a top 50 prospect before he went to Florida. I don't know how likely that seems, okay, but you never know. Incredibly talented guy. I kind of want more proven commodities. We got a lot of young players coming back from last year. They were already on the Huskers. We need some more experienced guys, some more guys who can come in and play, a little bit more proven type commodities. Again, kind of like what Signetti did at Indiana, and there's a couple other schools that have had success with that as well. It goes a little bit more into the radar, but Louisville turned their program around 2 years ago by bringing in experienced guys as well. Now, someone sent me this, and after learning more about it, I kind of liked it. All right, former 4-star nose guard, started at Penn State, then transferred to Purdue and started every game last year. 6'3", 333 pounds. We need a big boy in the middle. All right, Cole Brevard is a possibility there. Now, there's probably going to be some players who come back to Nebraska after entering the portal. They're probably just making a business move, testing the waters. Can I get more money somewhere else? Can I get more money out of Nebraska? It's how it works right now. So there may be some players who come back. All right, keep that in mind. Now, there's more players out there. There's more positions of need than what I just addressed specifically. There's more guys in the transfer portal. I mean, there's probably going to be quite a few that come in than what I've addressed here. But I felt like this was a good start. All right. And again, this may be more of a roster overhaul than Rhule had originally anticipated. He may not have a choice. It is what it is. The Huskers, again, need experienced players, in my humble opinion, especially on defense. All right, guys who can play right away, add depth. We haven't had true depth for a while here at the University of Nebraska. And here's a couple of examples of complete overhauls. And I'm not saying we got to have a complete overhaul at every position, but just like I was watching the ACC championship game. SMU's entire starting offensive line, all 5 of them, brand new players. I already knew Oklahoma, their entire starting offensive line was brand new players. Oh, Adam, they weren't very good. Yeah, 7-5, bowl game. Bad season for them. Curb stomped a mud hole into Alabama 24-3. Cost them going to the college football playoff. All right, and I don't know how much we want to mimic Deion Sanders, but Colorado's whole team is always new. But they're new, all new offensive line. I'm not trying to target the offensive line or anything with this. I'm simply saying it's part of college football now. And it could be at a different position, not just the one I've been mentioning. It's just the ones that stuck out to me in my memory bank throughout the year. All right. Let's see here. All right. Let's go through some picks here. Coach Dillingham of Arizona State. Sources. Amazing, 100% true Thanksgiving story about Kenny Dillingham. Saturday, Kenny Dillingham earned a $200,000 bonus for 9 wins. Monday, Dillingham tells 20 of the off-field Arizona State staffers they'll all get a $5,000 to $10,000 bonus. What Dillingham didn't tell them, or me, according to the guy who wrote this, he's basically giving them his bonus. Pretty cool. Oh, here's one. The investigation into the Texas fans who threw bottles onto the field versus Georgia earlier this year. No one's going to be caught or punished. Shocker. So I'm just going to put this up on the screen because, of course. And we'll move on. All right. So I'm not targeting this player, but it's his 5th school if he transfers to another school. I heard of a basketball player a couple of years ago. He played for 5 different basketball schools in 5 years. Kind of impressive because he led all 5 teams in scoring. But this is kind of insane to me, stuff like this. And I'm not targeting this player. I'm just, this type of thing happening is crazy to me, in my humble opinion. All right, Texas. And this was before the college football playoffs. Championship weekend this past Saturday. Number 2, Texas. Number 8, SMU at the time. Number 9, Indiana. And number 12, Miami are combined 0-4. Now make it 0-5 versus top 25 teams. Anyways, I digress. But here's Nick Saban. Is there any benefit to playing really good teams in the future? Because Alabama was left out. So, of course, Nick Saban's not completely biased when it comes to Alabama. He would admit that. But here's my issue with that. First of all, how many mulligans over the years has Alabama gotten? How many times have they not won the SEC yet gotten into the college football playoff? At least twice. They have 2 more national titles because of it. And I'm like, if you were in Alabama, you wouldn't have gotten in to begin with. So I don't want to hear people, and I'm not saying Nick Saban's crying. I don't want to hear people crying for Alabama. Now, here's what you can do if you're Alabama. Don't lose to unranked Vanderbilt, and don't lose to unranked Oklahoma 24-3. Just a thought. Oh, man, breaking class of 2025 quarterback Chase Herbstreit, Kirk's son, has committed to Michigan. All right, the 6'2", 195 quarterback joins Bryce Underwood, who's the number 1 recruit in the entire country, is the 2nd scholarship quarterback in the Wolverines 2025 class. He is the son of former Ohio State quarterback Kirk Herbstreit, and this person puts go blue. Obviously, Ohio State fans are upset. You know, I find it interesting because you've already got the number 1 recruit in the entire country, Bryce Underwood, going there, and now you're committing to as a quarterback. Obviously, you're going to your dad's big-time rival school. You know, if your dad's an Ohio State alum like Kirk is, going to Michigan. I just thought that was interesting. All right, the most 90s photo of all time, ladies and gentlemen. Check that out. I saw this and I just thought it was cool. All right, go ahead and leave that up on the screen for a minute. And all right, check out CarrikerChronicles.com. There's all sorts of phenomenal podcasts, shows, writers, picks from games, not just from football, but volleyball to basketball to press conferences to Amy Williams to John Cook to Matt Rhule to Dana Holgerson. CarrikerChronicles.com. Here are my 3 questions for you fine folks at home. Number 1, there's going to be a lot of new faces, okay, for Nebraska next year. Is that going to be a good thing? Yes or no? Let me know. Number 2, should college athletes have to sign contracts like pro athletes? Yes or no? And number 3, who should be the coach of the year? Kenny Dillingham for Arizona State, Deion Sanders for Colorado, or Curt Cignetti for Indiana? All right. Joel Klatt thinks it's Deion. He's not entirely unbiased. They all have good cases. Who do you think? Kenny Dillingham's 34, the youngest head coach in America. Go, Big Red Nose. Remember to throw the ball.